Wow, this new studio is a pain in the neck to work with. So, just so you know, I actually thought I was live 15 minutes ago, and there's a setting in the program that actually caused some grief here. So, I want to apologize for that. So, I'm late. I got a message from "You're late," and I wasn't sure what they were talking about. I thought I was live. It said I was, and then I found out it slipped over into a preview. So I'm going to have to watch that. There are so many hidden controls on this new studio that if you don't set it up just right, you have a problem. So everyone, I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm never late. If anything, I'm very, very early, and sometimes that's not the right thing to do. But today I'm late. Hello, everyone, as you come in. Today is the 23rd of April, 2020. I'm Roy Potter, and again, welcome as you come in. I'm sorry I kept you waiting. Like I said, I was on preview mode, and it didn't show me until just a few minutes ago. So here we are. All right, yeah, and I've got my cup, so you know that I'm all ready to go. There it is, right there. And it's very sad, actually, that that's been the case. Sorry, I got something in my eye there. Where are we going to start today? Well, yes, this is unfortunately going to have to be a Trump bashing session because I am thoroughly disgusted, and I think anybody that's willing to put away their cultic worship of this guy and the hopium that he's been selling us for 4 years or longer, I hope that you're willing to discuss this with us. The fact of the matter is that yesterday I was considering how I was going to do this, and I was texting a friend back and forth, and she said to me, "Why don't you make a list so that these people that just don't get what's happening, you can actually make an impression on them?" And I thought about that for a while. By the way, I didn't follow your advice, and I know she's watching, because the fact of the matter is everybody's made up their mind at this point. And I said that some time ago, that I don't think we're going to change the course of things, that those who want to be ignorant will remain ignorant and be cultic worshipers, and those who want to see the truth as it is will see it. And I've seen a lot of people talk about that, those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And of course, it could all be a matter of opinion. But no, when we look at this, we've got to realize that the rhetoric has not matched what's happened on the ground. So I got attacked pretty badly yesterday or the day before when I left the Q thing, when I finally said, okay, there's too much evidence to show that this isn't the right group of people, that this is some type of a psyop. A lot of people turned on me at that point, and I didn't care. I don't care about that stuff. I don't look at numbers and those types of things. That's not what I do this for. I'm certainly not in it for the money. So it didn't really bother me, but man, the attacks got worse and worse. Well, it was either yesterday or the day before. They called me un-Americanization of former Army officer Roy Potter. You were a great Army officer, and now you're an anti-American. Why? Because I don't allow these attacks on our Constitution by a guy who pretends to be what he actually is not. And I had a long, hard haul to come and totally turn against Trump. Oh, but we would have gotten Hillary otherwise. And we would be right where we are today. Maybe a little quicker, that's all. So at any rate, I get tired of being accused of being an anti-American, so I finally just said, "You've got 2 minutes and I'm blocking you," and I threw them off. So that's where I've been. By the way, is everything 5x5 here, everybody, now that I've got this thing up and running? Maybe you can tell me if it's okay. I asked that question when I was on preview, and I thought, oh no, they haven't taken me off the preview yet. But everything should be okay, I think, at this point. So where do we start? Well, I could start way back in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And a duck doesn't change its colors. Like a leopard doesn't change its colors. A duck that quacks and waddles is a duck, and all those things. So Donald Trump hasn't changed. He rode the wave probably under the guidance of people in the New World Order. He rode the wave because they could see that this movement, this awakening, and I hate to use that term because somebody else uses it, but for lack of a better term, this coming to a realization that they've been lying to us for years. They could see that we were going to react to that. So they put Trump in there, who made all these promises and by and large has not kept the most important ones. He gives you a few to keep you hooked, but he keeps changing the bait, and then he changes the results. And people can say, oh, well, that's not his fault. I hear people say that all the time. It's Pelosi's fault. It's the Congress's fault. It's McConnell's fault or Ryan's fault or whatever. It's always somebody else's fault, which, by the way, a friend who's involved in psychology pointed this out the other day, that's very typical of narcissistic behavior, that it's everybody else's fault. But in this case, it's more than just that. This is a planned situation so that he can look like the victim and we keep supporting him. When in fact, he's had the power all the time. And whether or not this is two mafiosos fighting each other, and we can talk about that, like the problem with the Anglo-American alliance trying to take control as opposed to China and the people that are allied with that. We can talk about all that, but regardless of any of that, Trump has not just camouflaged his real purpose, but he's outright lied to us and everyone. And we just have to admit this. Now, I talked about Don Jr. during the preview, so let me talk about that again. Up front, I was really hoping that Trump was a Cyrus, a Koresh, who was going to help bring back good things. But in fact, he's turned out to be a Saul. He is a Saul. And his son, Don Jr., is like Jonathan. I like Don Jr., but the fact of the matter is, and he should respect his father and support him, but if you know the story of Saul, he became very jealous of his power. And his son, Jonathan, remained friends with David, of course. And in this situation with Trump, it's very similar. Well, Don Jr. is still remaining friends with us. At least apparently that's the case. He stood up for the Second Amendment when his father hasn't, for instance. And he supports his father publicly. I would expect no less. But like Jonathan, it might be better if he just keeps his trap shut at this point, because he's not helping us. And I called him out yesterday, as did a lot of other people. So that's where I stand, and I'm not budging from it, and we're going to talk about it right now. We're going to go down through it. So again, Trump, what he was in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, he's no different. He's not really changed, and his actual actions prove that. His words do not match what he's doing. I've said all those things. I don't want to have to do this, and I'm not going to do what my friend suggested and follow through a PowerPoint program bullet by bullet. But we're just going to discuss it as the situations come up. I do have some things here that I'm going to bring up that are very critical, so we're going to start there. So I don't want to go back to all the things that he was for back earlier, like abortions and government control of all the things that he stood for a long time ago, and then suddenly changed when in fact he was just riding this wave of this patriot movement, because he saw, and the people that controlled him saw, that that's what they needed to do to keep us from rising up, until they got their whole program into place. Remember, I said they keep kicking it down the road. Why do they keep kicking it down the road? The whole thing with Barr and Durham and opening up the country now and all this, it's because they wanted to get their program into place, and they wanted to have time to propagandize the people into it. And Hillary wouldn't have been able to do it. But Trump and his little sneakiness here has, in fact, been able to get people to worship him rather than see where he actually stands on the principles, even by his actions. Enough of that. So let's start off. What was my first indication, other than his previous political stance? What was my first indication, as most of you who followed me should know? By the way, I can't do all this at the same time, I think I said, so I'm sorry I'm missing a lot of your comments, but I kind of got to set this up, so I hope you're all right. So, like everybody else, I was really thrilled with the election. I thought, great, he's the one that said he was going to arrest Hillary. He talked about draining the swamp. He's the one that said he was going to do all these things. He asked for the job, and what did we do? We believed him. We got conned. I'll tell you my theory about what happened later, But for right now, let's just talk about what happened. Kind of sum it all up as much as we can in a reasonable amount of time, and we'll miss a lot of things. What was the first thing he did? Well, actually, it was during the campaign. And what he did, all these Christians that want to embrace him because, oh, yeah, he believes in Jesus and all, and he says he does, and I've talked about that to some extent. But look what he did here. And I'm not homophobic, okay? But it was a warning sign. And what he did during the campaign, if you'll remember, and I've showed pictures of it, during the campaign, he showed the LGBTQ flag and had a big smile on his face. Warning, warning. He didn't have to do that. The LGBT community is not that big that he'd have to influence it, at least not publicly. Okay, but he made that initial thing, and I'm sorry, but that's Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So he right out the gate really showed what he was about. He wasn't the guy who stood up for morality and for all the good things. It was a ploy, and that was the first warning sign. And I saw that in the campaign, and it worried me. But like a fool, I explained it away. Well, my single vote probably didn't matter, but the point is that this whole other business fooled everybody. Or we just fell into the trap because we wanted to believe this, that there would actually be somebody that could do something about it. That was the number one thing. What was the second thing? Does anybody know? The second thing was, after he had been saying that he was going to drain the swamp and arrest Hillary Clinton, 3 days after he was president-elect, he's in an interview, and the interviewer asks him, well, are you going to pursue charges and charge Clinton? And he goes, oh, no, the Clinton are good people. Again, he could have said, we're looking into what the possibilities there are. No, he cleared her just like Comey did. Okay, that's essentially what he did. From there, it was, I can't do anything because nobody will let me. He says he can't do anything about, the wall situation, about immigration. He's been saying that forever. And then just yesterday, or day before, I think it was yesterday, he signs this 60-day thing, executive order to stop immigration. So he had the power the whole time. But the problem with what he did yesterday, if you're looking at it, is all it is a word game. It's another delaying tactic so that we think he's doing something. If you read the executive order, it actually is being renewed after 30 days. The whole immigration thing, they'll open it back up. In other words, it's for 30 days, and even that doesn't stop immigration at all. It's actually only going to, from what I can tell, it's only going to affect about 10% of the legal immigration. It has nothing to do with the illegal immigration. Another sleight of hand. Another magic trick. I'm going to back up to the LGBTQ thing for just a minute because I want you to know how discouraged I am about this. Why is this an issue? Because it's one of the basic tenets. I know this is I might even get thrown off YouTube for saying this. Yay! I'll be able to retire. How many times have I said that? I don't care what people do in their bedroom. I don't care. I'm a little concerned because in my experience, when I have dealt with these gay guys, they think that the only difference between them and me is a six-pack of beer. And I'm telling them that isn't the case. I've been accosted. Yes, I have been accosted by them. A minimum of, let me count this, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5 times in my life. And I won't give you all the details, but it wasn't just a come on, okay? That doesn't mean that heterosexuals can't do that too, between men and women. I know that, okay? But it's the manner in which it happens. Frankly, I'm like Sam Kinison. How does one guy find love in another guy's hairy ass? Okay, I'm just going to say it. If they want to do that, that's fine. But the problem is they've been pushing the agenda because the New World Order's been pushing these like the drag queen story times and all this transgender stuff and everything, because they're trying to destroy the creation of God. End of story. And they're trying to change you. So, as I said, the LGBTQ flag. And then hear about, what was it, 6 months ago, a year ago, not very long ago, he put out that situation where he said that the world should decriminalize all homosexual behavior. Do you remember that? It was actually they were going to use American funds, withholding American funds, to encourage that countries that still criminalized it would decriminalize it. Now I can see some advantages to that, some because people still need to survive and things like that. But I think what this is the setting up of the Baphomet Society. Not just the Moloch Society, but the Baphomet Society. In other words, like in 1984, there's no men and women. It's discouraged. If you haven't read it, you need to go read it. This is a program to destroy mankind. It's one thing to allow it to exist. It's another thing to embrace it. And in the argument that Abraham used with God, he said, look, if there are 10 right, he started at 50 and got down to 10. If there are 10 righteous left, will you spare Sodom and Gomorrah? Then there weren't even 10. Why is this such a horrible thing for mankind? Because that's really the lust of the flesh. That's really what they're talking about. It's not the love between men and women. It's the lust of the flesh in these situations with these perverse behaviors. And it's to destroy mankind, both spiritually and physically. So, the fact that he is behind that, and I don't care if he's being pushed by Ivanka and Kushner anyway. It doesn't matter. Jared Kushner and Ivanka. I don't care if that's who's pushing. Oh, by the way, her new name is Yale. I hope you know that. Did you know her new name is Yale? When she converted to Judaism, she became Yale. Somebody was arguing with me at one time that, well, Kushner's not Lubavitcher. Well, he was a modern Jew, I'll admit that, but they have extremely close ties and belong to the Lubavitcher synagogue. Now, I don't care about that, but the point is people want to argue with me on these things. You know, I don't say stuff that I don't already know or have a pretty good basis for. So at any rate, he has very close ties to Lubavitchers. That's another whole thing altogether. But these people keep pushing. I'm talking about Jared and Ivanka, and apparently giving cover for Trump, or Trump I don't know what's going on there. But they keep pushing this. Now, I'll just read this. This was in the New York Times. I think it was yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on because this is really small. Will you pardon me? Let me read this to you. New York Times by Julian E. Barnes, April 22nd, 2020. Now, do I like the New York Times? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to look and see what they're up to. One of the things you do when you're using all source intelligence information is you got to look at your enemies too, okay? Well, let me just read this. And I'm sure this is absolutely true. I've seen other evidence. The Trump administration is considering cutting back on sharing intelligence with partner countries that criminalize homosexuality as part of a push by the acting director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell, to prod those nations to change their laws. Richard Grenell has been an open homosexual for a very long time, and he's now our national director. Now, is he doing some neat things? Yeah, he got on them for not releasing the information on the FISA. You know, he's done some great stuff. But it's like I said, what's the end result of things like this? Where are we going? And there have been other instances of this. It's open. It's like Isaiah said. Their sin is as Sodom. They hide it not. It's one thing and it's still not good to be doing it under the table, but it's a whole nother thing when you promote it to the rest of especially when the children are involved. This is bad. And I don't care how anybody views it, it's bad. Let me show you a picture of of the tweet that this involved here. There's Richard Grinnell there. It's not gonna focus on that too well, but you can see him there. We're being taken down a road to accept these things, and it's getting worse by the day. Okay. I just got so much stuff here. Trump is the president. He's supposed to be controlling the DOJ. Now, Alex Jones will say, Trump can't get control of his DOJ. He can't do it. He can't do it. No, he doesn't want to. He's got Barr in there, and Barr won't do it. Oh, Barr can't do it either. I'm sorry. Then they should start getting special prosecutors or something. Let me read a couple of these things. The Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry. Attorney General Barr refuses to release 9/11 documents to families of the victims, says public discussion of the issue would reveal information that would cause the very harm my assertion of state secrets privilege covers. Well, that's SOB. It's like Orrin Hatch said, and I put this out on my community board a little while ago. This is like after Waco when everybody was calling for an investigation. Senator Orrin Hatch, what did he say? It's not politically expedient. What a coward. Not politically expedient. The government just killed all those people. Those women and children, used military munitions on them. This is what I said. And I sent this to Trump. Protecting the traitors and murderers is not MAGA, not American, and certainly not Christ-like. You have not only reneged on your most important promises to fix America, you fight against those promises. You now have innocent blood on you. And yes, that's exactly the case. So, he's refused, and he uses the intelligence. Oh, they won't declassify, even though I've told them to. They won't do it. Hey, I'll tell you what I do. Hey, you, bring me those classified documents right here, right now. Stamp them unclassified. Give them to my press secretary and say, you take this stuff. I don't give a damn what the Senate Security Select Committee for Intelligence says, or the CIA, or Grinnell, or anybody. You just release them. So he covered up the JFK thing after he said he was going to let it out. Why? He's protecting the very people he said he was going to take out. Oh, they'll kill him for it. Well, he asked for the job. You know? Then you have, of course, 9/11. And we could list all kinds of things. He's not going to release that. The Las Vegas shooting. This happened on his watch. And he's covered it up. That we're supposed to believe the crap that came out of the FBI. Remember, I've done an FBI corruption series for a long time. Somebody, and I'm not going to mention who it was, accused me of not knowing who the people are in the government that have done all this coup business. Well, I don't know every last single one of them, but I've been doing stories on that for years. So I did know some of the players, some of the more important ones. Okay, what's the next thing I'm concerned about? Foreign wars. How well has Trump actually done this? Did you know that we sent more troops to the Middle East? Do you know that we're whether we baited China or not? I'm not saying that China isn't bad and we don't have to protect ourselves from it, but you've got to realize that it's our people. Clinton, Obama, Kissinger. Name the whole list. You could even include people like Nixon and Ford and giving Feinstein, all these people putting China the favored nation status, sending all of our manufacturing. Trump says he's going to bring it back. He knew what the program was going to be. I'm convinced of it. He could make all these claims and then be able to say, I couldn't help it. The coronavirus hit. Or they're taking over the South China Sea or whatever. And we're going to talk about China a little bit more here in a few minutes. But a few days ago, I had someone send me a tweet from Pompeo saying that he was telling the embassy in Singapore, thank you for your good work and for keeping the lights on. And they asked me, was this a code? And yes, it was. And now what happened? Well, it came out in Reuters that there are U.S. warships now in the South China Sea amid this China-Malaysia standoff. They want the war with China for a lot of reasons. I mean, do I have to enumerate them all? They have the entire... Trump blew up, I'm talking about inflating the financial bubble to such a point that it was bound to... It's almost like, if you have a balloon, have you ever tried this? You keep blowing on it, and then finally it gets to the point where it explodes. That's exactly what Trump did. And yet the way he sold it was, look at your 401ks, look how well you're doing. Everything's so good. Now where are you? It finally busted because they can't hold it. So now the whole situation is, now create a war, as Gerald Celente has said. So they're so concerned about the old people dying from coronavirus, but they're going to start a war and kill off how many millions of people? At the very least, your sons and daughters, and your daughter shouldn't be there at all. That just frustrates the hell out of me. We're cowards. And we've lost sight of what we're really supposed to be. But what do you expect when you have a guy with no principle heading the entire government? And he's pretending like he doesn't. He's giving cover, and I'm going to talk about this a little later. He's giving cover now to keep us from reacting. He's giving cover to the New World Order and to Hillary Clinton. As a matter of fact, I would not be a bit surprised if Hillary Clinton, Obama, and Trump, and Soros, and all these people gathered in a room and said, how are we going to do this? How are we going to keep the American people from rising up? Because they're our real problem in the world. They got a lot of guns, and they've got a lot of clout if they only consider it, if they only get together. Well, we'll just put them to sleep. We'll give them an anesthetic. Hey, Don, you want to do that for us? Yeah, I'll do it for you. We got to take these sons of bitches down. They got to go. They got to come to heel. I'm telling you, it's probably that bad. So, we were right. And now this entire thing, Australia has joined the U.S. warships in the South China Sea. Now, I'm not saying China isn't a problem. What I'm saying is that for the New World Order to have this type of thing happen justifies their losing, and Trump losing the economic battle, which they planned all along anyway. This whole situation had to go forward, and they were expert by using Trump to put us to sleep, to sedate us. Oil is trading at under $5 a barrel. What's that going to do? Well, I'm not going to sit here and explain all the economic warfare that's going on and what it's going to do to us. The funny thing about all this is that we know that the kingdoms of the earth, the nations of the earth, they're by and large, especially the powerful ones, although they all fit the bill, are all very evil. They're not, even in our country where we have the Constitution, they don't run by principle. Their supreme consideration is not the Bill of Rights and the perfect law of liberty. Oh, no. They say that, just like Trump has said it, and then they do everything opposite to it to enslave you. You've heard other people talk about this entire coronavirus thing as a way to train you to submit. And look at how many people are, willingly. You think we're going to win a war with China? Even with our technical abilities, we're not going to. Now, why would Trump and these people want to destroy the United States? Well, that should be obvious, because in the end, they've said it for many years. China is the model for the new world. Now, that creates a problem in a dichotomy almost, because Trump has allied himself with the Anglo-Americans, which include Israel. So why would that bloc now want China to take control of the United States? Because the model is the same for both groups. Total control. But if they can use the Chinese resources to cause this, all they got to do is pull the trigger, and it'll just happen. And then they clean up the mess afterwards. It's like I've told you about what cops do. Not all of them. This is the way my department handled it that I belong to. There was a bar fight. You get a call to a bar fight, all the cops come and they get in the parking lot and they sit around and they joke around, they talk a little bit, you know. They're in no rush to run into the bar fight. Why get involved in the mayhem? Let them beat each other up a little bit for a while, and then you go in. And that's exactly what's happening here. What other things has Trump done? Well, I didn't ever want to put it this way, but I have to admit it's true. Trump is pro-Israel. He is not pro-American. He is not. I talked about the Trump Heights, the old Golan Heights that were named as Trump Heights, and they used the Tet, the sign of the serpent, to spell his name, not the Tav, which is the cross. A lot of people don't think that's significant. Trust me, it is. He was considered Cyrus. They made a coin. Israel made a coin with Trump on it as being Cyrus, partially because of his supposed friendship with Israel, but also because of the movement of the embassy, the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And now this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. You probably won't. Let's see how this looks. Do you see that? That's the new coin that they've made. And it says, the sons of light against the sons of darkness, and it pictures Trump in the foreground and Netanyahu in the rear. I saw that, and I wasn't surprised. I was horrified. What is the sons of light? The sons of light against the sons of darkness. It's quoting the war scroll of the Dead Sea Scrolls about the war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. They're claiming to be something they're not. You tie that in with these two to Revelations. Do you realize what they're saying? They're saying they're the two witnesses. It's talked about in Revelations. Nothing could be further from the truth, because there's nothing that those two have done that would put them in the category of those saints. Nothing. Quite the opposite. But they're being sold as that. Very serious. Under Trump's watch, and it's probably been going on for a long time, the investments for the military retirement funds have been going to where? The Chinese defense establishment. John Solomon reported on this back on the 16th of April. Quoting John Solomon, retirement funds for federal military retirees may soon be investing in China defense firms. Outstanding investigative piece by my colleague Christine Dolan. Trump has, moving to the coronavirus thing, Trump has been the one from his bully pulpit that has put these liars and deceivers like Fauci and Bricks up there. YouTube, take me down. Oh, you'll really do me a favor. You said you would. I've had people explain to me, no, Trump, and Lionel said it, Trump had to do something, even if it only looked like he was doing something. Well, what you do is you bring other people around, you find out what's going on. They should have known, and they probably did, that this was a man-made thing in the lab probably made in the United. Remember, I said early on, when this whole thing came out, I said, this is a bioweapon, but this is how it went down. It was created in a lab in the United States. They gave it, Obama and Hillary and whoever else gave it to China to be used against us in the end. And that would be cover for China because they would be able to prove, China would, that they originally got it from the United States. And what are they saying now? That's exactly what they're saying. Our media and our liars in chief here say, even if they don't say it themselves, they allow it to be said, oh, this was a naturally occurring virus in a biolab. Mutually exclusive terms. Unbelievable. So Gigi Sims put out here about, well, it was on the 15th. She's on Twitter. Quote, now we're giving China an out despite the fact that they never gave us access to their data. New story, naturally occurring in a lab. Nice way to satisfy both camps and appease. Same story, different day. Government sold us down the river long ago. We the people get screwed again. Who's in charge? Trump. Now, the question comes whether China actually did deliberately release this to the world. I don't know that. And I don't think it's provable at this point. It could very well be that they didn't know what they had, or it was released by American intelligence or Israeli intelligence or somebody else, knowing that Wuhan lab had this available to them. I know people don't want to hear this. I know they don't want to hear it. I don't like the Chinese. They kill millions of innocent baby girls every year. They enslave their people. They've killed how many? 80 million or more. And I read, I think, from one of the Chinese military officers that said they want to kill up to 200 to 300 million Americans, because that's the price that they have to pay. The Chinese have to kill 200 to 300 million Americans in order to take over our land. Yes, they said that. I don't like the Chinese, but I'm trying to tell you that these things are being done so that the Chinese model will be brought here. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. They've been talking about it since the 1840s, how they were going to do this and use the Chinese to do it. So how do they kick this thing off? Well, the China has all these dissidents that they need to get rid of. So they release this bioweapon, or they have, or some intelligence from the West does it, releases it in the Wuhan area, and then it goes out of control. And of course, China, they're trying to play it down, and there are a lot of reasons, whether they knew it or not. It still fit into the basic concept of taking care of their dissidents. They used it to go after the Taiwanese protesters, the Hong Kong protesters, the Uyghurs up front. I mean, they used it to clean house. What are they doing here in the United States? What did I say early on? They started to release criminals. Do you realize that's a communist move? When you release criminals from jail, real serious criminals, it's one thing to open the prisons and let those who have been, Stone is being railroaded now, or Flynn, those types of things. Assange, which he's done nothing about. Trump, nothing. He's let those injustices stand, and I'm not buying that it's politically necessary for him to do that. But what are they doing? They're letting all those out, and you all know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. What are they doing? They're arresting moms with their kids at the playground. They're arresting people in public areas that aren't wearing masks, which do nothing. I'm sorry, they don't do anything. The most a mask can do, if you work in food service and you're working around food, you should probably have a mask on anyway, even if the coronavirus wasn't here. Because as you speak, as you breathe, you are letting, you could contaminate food. Yes, of course. But in stores, walking on the streets, I see people wearing these things in their homes. Are they out of their minds? Are they trained that well by this evil government? Alex Jones has this right. This is training. They're getting ready to inject you with that little nano tattoo. That's where this is going. And there are all kinds of problems with that. So the whole point is they're pushing that the Chinese model will take over. Now, killing the economy in the United States, as I was starting to say here a few minutes ago, this old world order, this old economic system, this fiat currency system run by the Federal Reserve, it's wicked, it's evil. Let me see what this is. Oh, the arrest of the Idaho lady. It doesn't matter. That's just one example, okay? That's just one example. These things are happening everywhere, okay? That's just one example. People are saying there's some other details about that where, she was ordered and the trespass and all that. That's not the point. The point is that these things are happening, and the basis, the proximate cause for these things happening is bottom line wrong, period, anyway. So it doesn't matter. The very premise, the very proximate cause, the very predicate, as A.G. Barr would say, is faulty, okay? Because nothing trumps the Constitution, not even a virus. The only thing that can be suspended in the Constitution, and it states it directly, is habeas corpus in times of invasion or insurrection. It's not a permanent thing. It's a suspension so that they can catch up to the numbers that they expect will happen or the urgency. None of the Bill of Rights are suspended. I'm sorry, none of them. So the predicate is wrong, regardless of what she actually did. The whole thing that set it up in the first place was the problem. And this type of arrest and these harassments. Look at the $1,000. There's one place I saw it's a $4,000 fine to be out. Is that right? Well, let's see. I think there's a thing that says in the Constitution that you can't have punishments that don't fit the crime. So you're walking on a beach and you get a $1,000 fine. No, these things are happening. Just because it may not have been exactly as we think on that one doesn't change the facts. The predicates are wrong, and we're being subject to tyranny. So regardless of that. Okay, let's go back to what I've got here. Trump is pushing, he came out a long time ago and he said, I'm ordering Dan Coats, that was his DNI at the time, Director of National Intelligence, to rein in the surveillance. And that was a big thing. Oh, Trump's taking away the surveillance. It's gotten worse. Barr is doing the Project Guardian, as I've talked about time and again. Trump's not stopping that. Trump didn't step in. I better stay on course here. Project Guardian is to gather surveillance on you so that they can do pre-crime. Oh, you're going to commit some crime and they're going to come and take your property without due process. And that's why Barr wanted the habeas corpus situation to be put into effect under these very strange circumstances so that they could just start grabbing people. That's exactly what it was for. Congress told him no, but don't bet that they aren't still going to do that. Okay. Just going to read a few things here just so that you know some of the other things that I'm taking into consideration here. This is a tweet from ET3 on Twitter. And a lot of people are starting to see this. So he lets these people come up on the stand and say all these crazy things, putting people in jeopardy of their liberty and, in fact, their lives and, of course, their livelihoods. And Birx the other day said, Dr. Birx said, we didn't know back in February and March how this disease really acted. Well, then why did you take the actions that you did? Why have we never been told with a definitive fact that this wasn't just a MERS or a SARS, which would be bad enough, but that you're taking these draconian circumstances on something that you didn't even know what the end results would be? We still haven't had verification. I mean, Trump is talking about it. Oh, it looks like this came from a lab, but of course they're twisting it. Oh, it was a natural occurring lab. Trump is behind this. He knows what's going on. If he doesn't, he's incompetent, but I think he's complicit, and I think that the entire program of what's happened here proves it. From the day he got, even before, on the campaign, on all the way through to today. So this is what ET3 says. So we the people now know with almost no shreds of doubt that real Donald Trump, that's Donald Trump, knows this plandemic, he calls it a plandemic, and all the evidence suggests that, is a scam to hide the global economic failure, to do the reset, removal of cash and liberties as a start. We know and can prove that he is complicit. He is a Trojan horse. And this is from another Twitter contributor, Expose the Media, I guess is the name. He played his role perfectly. They have the Dems all wrapped up. They needed an America First fraud to corral in the conservatives. In other words, the Dems were all ready for the New World Order. The Dems are all ready for taking away liberties. The Dems are all ready for tyrannical authoritarian government. It was the conservatives that weren't, and they had to get them looped in, and they did it by using Donald Trump to placate us and sedate us, as I've said. So let me repeat this. He played his role perfectly. They have the Dems all wrapped up. They needed an America First fraud to corral in the conservatives. Game over. Well played, Deep State. And then back to ET3. Many, I would argue, too many, were spellbound by our collective wishes, desires for America's children. The wizards knew their enemies, we the people all too well. Normalcy and confirmation biases removed clear thought. Set up, knock down. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. U.S. police departments. Look at this. Again, the arrest of the lady on the playground. That was just one out of many. That's getting a lot of press, but there are others that are too. Look at this one. U.S. police departments deployed drones donated by Chinese manufacturer. Oh, we're definitely against the Chinese, and nothing's stopping this. Drones. To keep track of you, to enforce social distancing, which is nonsense. You quarantine the sick, not the well. And again, what was this whole thing about? When we were first sold this bill of goods, it was, let's take 2 weeks off to just flatten the curve so the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. What are they doing? They're kicking that can down the road again. If they let us out for a little bit here, it's going to be under additional restrictions, and then they're going to tighten the noose again in a few months. And Trump is allowing it to happen. There are people committing suicide now over this. Did you see this? I set this up. I don't know if I've got a copy of it here. Dan Bongino said the other day, one of my best friends and neighbors killed himself because he lost his job. What do you want to bet they labeled that as a coronavirus death? He probably had a coronavirus. Everybody has coronavirus. The tests, whenever you get a test, you're going to be tested positive probably, unless the test is bad, because everybody has coronavirus. It can't delineate between all these different coronaviruses. It's a hoax. Yes, it is. Those are a hoax. So this best friend of Dan, not best friend, a neighbor friend, lost his job, committed suicide, and Dan says this has to stop. And he said, F-U-C-K, you people in power, and he should include Trump in that. Trump's the one that's using his bully pulpit to force this down our throats. Many people died of suicide. Listen to this. This is from the Tennessee Star. More people died of suicide than coronavirus in Tennessee last week. My God, what has been unleashed? Trump's responsible for that. Yes, he is. But you know what? They probably will get away with calling those coronavirus deaths. Back to immigration. I will be signing my executive order prohibiting immigration into our country today. In the meantime, even without this order, our southern border aided substantially by the Mexican army. Really, and I've already talked about that. How absurd to trust the Mexican army to secure our border. How absurd, while we send our troops everywhere else in the world. And he's still doing this crap. Well, what did he do by that? Well, Mark Pantano and Edelson James, for instance, he's probably here somewhere. Yeah, thousands of test kits are contaminated. That's another thing. If you get tested with a contaminated kit, Jesse, yeah, they give you the virus. This is so obvious what they're doing. Okay, back on the executive order. Mark Pantano has been saying, Trump, you have the ability to do this. You don't need Congress's permission. You don't need to listen to the courts, all this stuff. But Trump used any excuse not to follow through. Now all of a sudden he can sign this executive order. And again, I realize that this is only 10% of the legal immigration that's even going to affect, and it doesn't affect illegal immigration at all. But people are calling him out for pretending like he couldn't act earlier. This is what Edelson James says. Trump had this power all along. This is not good leadership. This was a huge deception. Not impressed, Donald. And here is Mark Pantano on this executive order on immigration. Number one, it's on his Declaring Liberty podcast account on Twitter. Number one, so you finally admit that you have had the authority to do this all along. Number two, only 170 miles of wall in over 3 years is pathetic. Now under the title Mark Pantano, the Mark Pantano on Twitter, about Trump's immigration ban that we are all supposed to be excited about. Number one, it's only temporary, 60 days, and in fact it's only 30. There's a reevaluation of 30 days. Number two, it only applies to those seeking permanent residence. It does not apply to temporary workers who compete with Americans for jobs. They're still bringing in foreign workers, ladies and gentlemen, from India, from Mexico, from China. In other words, it's BS. And in that vein, this is again what I said to Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr.'s tweet was, after the pandemic passes and we can fire up our economic engine, I'm truly looking forward to watching real Donald Trump make America great again. Again. This was my response to Donald Trump Jr. Tired of even your bravado and praise of empty promises that have no salvation. The rhetoric has not manifested on the ground, quite the opposite. It has not merely been the fault of opponents of POTUS. It is his lack of principle, loyalty, justice, and dedication to liberty. This from Spread the Truth. Yeah, I know I'm just reading these, but I'm trying to show you that people are seeing this. Roy, we are on our own. The Trojan horse comes in many forms. Now we must discuss ways to form safe communities, which will be attacked by the power structure if you try to do that. But I'm not saying not to. I won't go into it anymore, but because she said some other things that were personal I don't want to bring up. Steve Pieczenik had a problem with this whole coronavirus thing, and now Trump's pushing vaccinations. What did he say? You got to get your shots. And now he's going along with Fauci and Bricks and all these. Oh, yeah, you've got to get your vaccinations, right? This is what Steve Pieczenik said. By the way, apparently this was removed from the timeline. I haven't checked on it. Somebody told me it was, which wouldn't surprise me. Steve Pieczenik wrote, big problem, advocating the flu shot. We do not want it. And my response to Dr. Pieczenik was, Dr. Pieczenik, Donald Trump is far outside the tenets of his campaign platform. He has undoubtedly embraced or never departed from the Democrat leftist agenda. And I could go on and on. Let me go. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I know I'm rambling on a lot. I'm trying to show you that we're in trouble. I didn't mean to pass over his take the guns and then do due process. That's it. The whole bump stock ban, ridiculous. Again, Project Guardian by Barr. He's attacking. Trump is heading the attack on your rights. He's done nothing to secure your First Amendment, done nothing to go after the violations against your First Amendment, and agrees with things like asset forfeiture, just as an example, which violates the Fourth Amendment. You notice now he always speaks two things, and he always has. It's just that we didn't recognize it when he did it. He always gives himself an out. I thought he wasn't a politician. I thought he was a neophyte, and I gave him a lot of excuses because he really didn't understand what he was into. No, he is a politician, and he speaks out of both sides of his mouth to give him cover no matter which way it goes, just like a politician does. And an example, the Georgia governor who opened the beaches and is starting to open up his state. And what does Trump say? He's always sending out unsure trumps, and that's not trumpets, unsure trumpets. It's a quote from the Bible. If the trumpet sounds an unsure sound, the people don't know what to do. And that's exactly what he does. So he says, states do, you're in control. But then when the Georgia governor does it, he goes, gee, I'm not sure that's a good idea because it might be too fast. We don't really know where this is going. Yes, he does. And they're going to attack us again, and he's going to be behind it. They're going to attack us again. And this war with China is going to get kicked off, and then that's really going to be a mess. Or at least the threat of it. It's going to be a mess. Okay, I want to go to, I cannot verify that this person is, let me find it here, is in fact a healthcare provider. I don't know that. I haven't asked for the confirmation of that. But the points that they bring up are very good. So let me get up here where it is. Yeah, this is it. I'm not even going to mention, however, I have talked to a legitimate healthcare provider that I know personally. They're saying the hospital beds are at about 40%. There is no big contamination. The ones that are happening, of course, are in New York and primarily New York. And that's because of the cold weather up there right now, but more importantly because they are stacked on top of each other in New York, and it's an older population in New York. Younger people, by and large, can't afford to live there. Same sort of situation that we saw in China, same sort of situation that we saw in Italy. Of course, in Italy, they were bringing Chinese there for their textile factories, for their Italian goods. Japan's not having a problem, though. Taiwan isn't. And by and large, flyover America isn't. And yet, here we see another reason why we have to have things like the Electoral College, because what people experience in rural America or even in the smaller towns doesn't apply. The big town, big city situations don't apply to those areas, and they shouldn't be forced to comply with those big city situations. But at any rate, so the point is, coronavirus, the test kits are going to get any coronavirus if they don't contaminate you with it, which is what Jesse Waltman was just saying, be pre-Earthwatch, that happens. But there's some other things. I'm just going to read these notes, okay? Because, again, this is from a person that purports to be a healthcare professional, and from what I see, it's probably the case. Let me read this. Hi, Roy. I tried to post this during your video but was unable. Here's my opinion. There is no medically sound reason to confine asymptomatic people to their homes. Only COVID-19 tested positive patients should be quarantined in their homes till no longer capable of transmitting it. I think that's probably even a stretch because look at how they handled SARS, MERS, and H1N1, and even HIV. HIV, they made it illegal to discriminate against people in this way. Contacts should voluntarily isolate themselves as well. Sunlight increases vitamin D levels, which improves immunity, and moderate exercise is beneficial. Vitamin C, at least 1,000 milligrams a day, does as well. Zinc will probably be found to help the body mount an immune response to COVID-19. We now have clinical experience with hydrochloroquine to justify using it in symptomatic patients, the earlier the better, as well as in healthcare workers. Zinc keeps hydrochloroquine helps it to defeat COVID-19 entry into the cell and subsequent replication. The triple cocktail therapy recommended by Vladimir Zelenko, MD of New York, is the best treatment protocol I have seen on the basis of early clinical use and theoretical grounds. Many of the highest risk patients, by the way, I asked her if I could read this to you, and she said yes, or he, whoever this is. Highest risk patients have either low or borderline zinc levels for multiple reasons, and by adding zinc, the two other drugs, hydrochloroquine and azithromycin, the Z-Pak, are likely to be more effective in the highest at-risk population. We have animal data from as far back as 2004 and from other basic science research which strongly implies that these drugs in combination may also be very effective prophylactically, that means to prevent it. That, of course, would be extremely important in returning the country to normal work activity. I am not pleased that the authorities continued to downplay this treatment. We do not have months to wait for a controlled, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trial like Dr. Fauci keeps talking about. This is more like battlefield medicine surgery situations, not academic medical research. He has been on one of the morning MSM shows today talking about draconian measures as our only choice, which simply is not true. We also have IV vitamin C in massive doses at 24 grams per day in combination with vitamin D that can be used, has been already in other countries if the triple therapy cocktail is not available. Some of the most recent epidemiological literature being published of interest with respect to the measures China allegedly took to blunt the spread of COVID-19 to the first outbreak in Wuhan area is in The Lancet. The paper asserts that the so-called serial interval of COVID-19 is close to or shorter than its mean incubation period. Let me read that again. This paper asserts that the so-called serial interval of COVID-19 is close to or shorter than its mean incubation period, meaning a substantial amount of secondary transmission may occur prior to the onset of symptoms. Asymptomatic people transmit the disease to others. But that's true with a lot of viruses. That's true with a lot of them. And we haven't shut down the economy. This serial interval is shorter than the SARS-1, which means that comparisons of the two can be erroneous where that characteristic is concerned. Still, the point is a lot of asymptomatic people could still and have spread diseases in the past. You don't shut down entire economies, which causes what? People to lose food, bad nourishment, suicide, troubles in the home. Okay? One of the inferences from the above papers is that too many people are becoming infected from other people who have no evidence of disease. Again, not questioning that happens. Quarantine of proven case positive patients and isolation of their known contacts will not be effective enough to stop transmission entirely, as it never will. So where do you go with that? Herd immunity. This suggests that mask wearing, ideally an N95, when people are outside where crowding might be unavoidable due to density of people or in close quarters, such as in grocery supply stores, is a good idea. Countries that have employed masks for those purposes have better results than those which haven't. And I would submit, so she's taking, taking both sides. But the fact of the matter is that masks are, you've got to get down to submicron level to stop a virus from entering. A mask won't do that. Not even you need a CBR mask like an M17, a military type mask. About 2 weeks ago, I saw this article suggesting a quaternary bioweapon and skipped over it. And he or she asked me if these things exist. What they are, I mentioned this early on, a binary weapon system. In other words, and most people would say that that's now going to be the 5G. Monty Graff will say the 5-7 because number 7 is the G in the alphabet. Other people use other codes. I don't care, because I don't care if they throw me off here. Okay, so the fact of the matter is that when I first looked at that, I said this is a binary weapon system in a biological bioweapon. In other words, everybody carries coronavirus of one nature or another, be it lab produced or not. And there's apparently a secondary part of the system, another ingredient that when combined with the coronavirus can cause it to go crazy. Whether that's the 5G or not, I don't know, but apparently there are some studies that are. But I did recognize that it was very likely a binary weapon. So she's asking me here if there are 4 parts to in other words, it's a quaternary. So let me finish reading this. Now I'm worried it's true, given everything I've learned since then. Chest CT scans and microscopic slides that pathologists have posted of autopsies where lung tissue is totally destroyed strongly suggest the damage is out of proportion to a typical coronavirus such as SARS-CoV-1. Maybe this is the explanation. Quaternary weapon system activated before each coronavirus cluster explosion. I am interested in your opinion given your background training in BNC warfare. The 60 gigahertz level of EMF on the new platform being rolled out globally interferes with oxygen. These patients can't oxygenate, which is seen in type ordinaire ARDS, but with COVID-19 it's much worse. Maybe that is one additional reason. That might be one reason why some patients relapse after hospital discharge and they die. Not that they're getting reinfected, but that they're still suffering from hypoxia. Most viruses cause an active humoral, that's immune response, which prevents recurrence of the disease. It is not clear to me how the patients who relapse are doing so. We need more information. So in other words, they're still suffering from something that's causing a loss of oxygen in their system. And it may, in fact, not be COVID-19. And then she gets into some other information, or he. Pardon me if it's a guy. I'm sorry. Then she gets into saying, I might as well read this. I responded and said, she brings up stratospheric aerosol injection, and this was my response. Yes, and our administration says nothing about that or myriad other obvious problems. Frankly, and I might upset you, I cannot stand to look upon Trump or hear his voice. I am repulsed. He has shaken hands with the wicked, not to draw them in and expose them, as so many say, but give them legitimacy and influence. Look at Fauci and Bricks. And Gates, for that matter, and now Trump's talking about vaccinations. I might withdraw from all this as the chances of turning from this course is unlikely. This is not cowardice submission, but as Harry Callahan said, a man has to know his limitations, and this is her response to that. I am extremely disappointed with him as well. I am trying to use all my education, experience, and training to find the truth about the virus. This is why I think it's a medical person and the way they talk. And its characteristics, including best therapies available at this time. It is clear that if a patient is placed on a ventilator, the battle has already been lost in upwards of 80% of the cases. Why? Because they need oxygen, not forced ventilation. Therefore, we must treat all patients before they are hospitalized, before admission to an ICU. The vaccine push, note the timing of Gates' arrival on the national scene with an agenda of locking the country down till all have had the vaccine certificates, data chips, etc., and the attempt to discourage treatment of HCQ and azithromycin in preventing serious complications, which strongly suggests that limiting the total number of hospitalizations, incubations, and mechanical ventilators needed is not the priority. If we really want to prevent deaths, we need to treat all patients as soon as possible with the most effective drug combination, which at present appears to be the triple cocktail of HCQ and the Z-Pak and the zinc. And, of course, you see the big pushback on that. Even Michael Savage is pushing back on that. I'm not really sure I understand why. He's a trained epidemiologist, but I'm not sure that he's close enough to the situation right now. Apparently this person is. I will continue to speak the truth as I understand it. We'll continue to research and study all relevant data as best I can. I can thank you for your tremendous years. Oh, that's another thing. All right. Okay. Anything else here? Now let me get into some other information. I don't think I'll go. The point is, as with my medical contact, the one that I know is a medical professional, saying that this thing isn't what they're saying it is. And then this person saying the same thing, but giving the idea that, yes, for the people that do contract this, and they're not symptomatic, you can pass along. But that's been true with every disease in the history of the world. And as I just pointed out from the Tennessee Star, there are more suicides now in Tennessee than there are deaths from coronavirus. I've been going on for a long time. I think my bottom line here is, as I've said for a long time, I was hoping that President Trump would be the guy who could stand up against the deep state. I am now convinced, more than ever, actually thoroughly at this point, that Trump is in on this entire game with the very people that we thought were his enemies. Clinton, Obama, Kissinger, who he's actually talked with, right? Soros, who he's taken money from. The Rothschilds, who he's taken money from. He is, in fact, an actor. And he has taken us down this road, and here we are. As I said, he kicked all those cans down the road, and here we are with massive authoritarian measures being placed on us under the guise of trying to prevent the spread of this disease, which he still won't admit as a bioweapon. So who's he protecting and why? I had one person say, well, they don't want to say it's actually a bioweapon because that would mean he has to go to war with China. No, I'll tell you where he has to go to war, ladies and gentlemen. I've called for it from the beginning. He has to go to war with the people in our government who are traitors, seditionists, and the real criminals, because that's why China gets away with doing what it does, because there are traitors in our government who have... We've been building China up for 30 to 40 years, sending all of our manufacturing over there. You don't think they're not going to take advantage of that? If they didn't, they'd be fools. But who are the real villains here? They're people sitting in our halls of power, like Feinstein, like Clinton, like Obama, like Kissinger. He's no longer there, but he has a lot of influence in the Council on Foreign Relations. So, in other words, he's going to protect his friends there, Trump is, and he's going to point all of the weapons at China. What's going to be the end result? What they want anyway, destruction everywhere. It's like I said, the title of this, they are destroying everything. And as I've been saying from the very start, they will destroy everything rather than lose power, because if they destroy everything, they think that they'll survive and they'll remain in power. So you think the COVID-19, the Wuhan virus is bad? You wait until they kill millions and maybe billions of us. Oh, they're so worried about that one old... I'll tell you, and a lot of older folks have said that. I'm not quite there yet. Okay, quite a ways off, actually. But if it goes to, I'm going to get this, or my kids are going to starve to death, you know which one I choose? Wow. So that's where I am. The bottom line here is on all this, what I think happened. Yeah, the military came to Trump. People that made it through the Obama purges, that really want the New World Order in, that really want total surveillance, the Chinese surveillance system. And they all sat around and they partied for however long. Just like I said a few minutes ago, Obama, Epstein, Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates. All of these people sat around. Well, we can't let Hillary in office. We just can't. Because we've already got the Democrats, the people that consider themselves Democrats. That's not the problem. We've got to figure out how to control these conservatives. What are we going to do? This is a worldwide problem, but it's definitely a problem in the United States. Although I've been really surprised. Most Americans haven't stood up and said enough is enough, like the yellow vests in France have, or like the people in Western Europe or Eastern Europe, or even Germans for that matter, and even the Brits. Americans haven't done nearly what they should. So they all sat around. Hey, Donald, you want a job? You want to help us to quell the uprising, sedate these people, pacify them? You'll still do the job. We'll just slow it down a little bit so they don't realize that they're being enslaved, that they're going to be eradicated. We're going to let you and your family survive because you're one of us. but we're going to kill off all these others. We're going to enslave them first, and then we're going to get rid of them over a period of time. Again, I'm not against changing this corrupt financial system. And eventually, all the nations will be destroyed on the return of the king, right? The real king. So it has to go away. And maybe this is the way it happens. They destroy everything, and it's on their head, not on God's. They won't be able to say, God, you destroyed all this. No, they did. God just knew it was going to happen. I'm still not liking it. I'm still not liking what I'm seeing. I don't like it at all. I don't want to see the suffering and the death and destruction. I don't. So that's where it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think's going on. I hope you all have had a good time discussing things. I will end on this note. I am firmly of the opinion that the AI has fully taken over. I've seen things going on even on my stuff. I'm convinced of it. And we brought this up about a week or two ago. The Pope's relinquishment of the Vicar of Christ. The situation where Trump doesn't really seem to be in charge, whether the presidential seal is there or not, it's not the issue. It's all the other things that are going on. He's just the cover guy. He's the camouflage. The situation happened with the British Crown, etc. I do, in fact, think that this Antichrist, whatever you want to call it, is here, and that it is plugged into the AI either with a regular human, some guy who's had, like Elon Musk, I'm not saying it's him, but that wiring in the brain that connects to the AI, or it's an interdimensional being of some sort through CERN. I don't know, and I know some of that sounds crazy, but the bottom line is that person has made themselves known to the power people in the West. I'm not so sure about the East, like in China. I'm not so sure about that. But certainly in the West, I think that he's shown himself and that they know who he is. I had a friend send me, and I haven't been able to verify, she'll know who she is, send me some information that there were 5 aircraft, Airbuses, at the JFK airport in New York with no call sign. What's in New York? The United Nations. I think this person is making themselves known to the power brokers in the West. We're going to have a war with China. We're actually already in it. We're going to have a civil war here in this country. It's going to turn into a balkanization, total dissolution. And this go ahead and call him the Antichrist, will offer a solution that will seem to work. But it will be at the cost of the true gospel, which is the perfect law of liberty. And that will be your key to know that this isn't the guy that he says he is. Talk about being verbose. An hour and 20 minutes. Dave Dalton, here we are with 200 million armed citizens, going to be very interesting. As I pointed out, Dave Dalton, the problem with everybody being armed is that they're not organized. I was in the military for a long time. Even police forces are this way. An armed mob isn't any. It'll cause a little bit of grief, but a much, much smaller, organized, trained group can take on a larger armed mob. Just a fact. We're not organized. Eddie Collins, getting Bluebeam ready to fool millions. And I pointed out that the other day that it was interesting that Pompeo had this exchange in Singapore of all places. Why in Singapore? Well, yes, it's right there, next to the South China Sea with all that's going on. That was part of it, and them ramping up the counter to China. But there was also that other incident that happened, and that is the Malaysia flight that disappeared on its way to Beijing. And I pointed out that there were scientists on there who were developing cloaking technology, which is kind of opposite the blue beam, but the principles would be the same in a lot of ways. Yeah, there's a main deception coming of some sort. Ruby Zoistite. I agree, feeling very disheartened today. Let no man deceive you, right? For many will come in my name saying I am Christ. And I explained this the other day. That meant that they would admit that he was the Messiah to fool you so that you would think that they're preaching the good word. They could also be saying that they are the Christ, but I think it goes both ways from my study of the Greek. And they will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes in diverse places. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must be fulfilled, must come to pass. Still doesn't make you feel quite fuzzy, does it? You guys are talking a lot of good things. Exactly, Disgustigal, you're right. The war is not with guns and bullets, it's in the mind. A disorganized conglomeration of people may be bad in traditional war, but it is devastating in a mind war. Good point. And it really is. I mean, it's always about the mind. It always is, the mind and the heart. It's always been about that. Yeah, in the end, it's always about that. That's true, Lisa. You will be hated for my name's sake, but he who endures the end will be saved. Well, yeah, that's true. I've had Debbie Carson, you say Trump's wife is half leopard and half lizard and half alien. I've had a lot of respect for Melania. I think she's just caught up in this. She has some background in of course, the communist system and all that, but I think she's just caught up in this. I can't think that she's really evil inside. Jesse says, BP Earthwatch, 5G will be defeated when the angel pours his vial upon the sun, putting the beast kingdom into darkness. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, that's really the key, the electromagnetic pulse that they're going to try to use against us will be nothing compared to what can come out of the sun. And that's why I often quote Malachi, where it says, and the sun, and I will send the sun with healing in his wings, and the sun is the Shemesh. So there's some type of transmission from the sun that will finally, at some point, interfere with, in the same way that their EMP will affect us, will also affect their system that they've tried to strengthen, to reinforce against those things. Yes, I do believe that, and it will reach them. This thing coming from the sun will actually reach them in the depths of their tunnels and those places. But quite opposite to that, it will transform us. Those of us who are worthy in whatever way in God's eyes, whether by His grace or because of whatever. I'm not going to enumerate that. But there is going to be some change that will occur to us as well. Our eyes and ears will be more fully opened. Karen Willison, Obama's going down. There's a lot of hype about that, but I'm not certain that's ever going to happen. Yeah, BP Earthwatch again says a large X flare could knock out the grid, and they might know that's coming. Shepard Ambellis and Monograph and several others have talked about this asteroid or comet that might hit the Earth. What is it? A week away now? No, not even that. Yeah, about 5 days, 6 days. I don't know about that, but they could certainly do something else and blame it on that, couldn't they? Yeah, you guys are having a lot of good conversations. I'm just looking to see, and I didn't go back to the top. I'm just following it from here. Okay. Sunblocked by chemtrails, thanks to Epstein's money to Harvard. Yeah, my belief in that is that it's not just to poison the air and the water and the food and give us nanoparticles. I think it's also to try to interfere with that connection that we have to God that they've developed this vaccine for as well. So they're attacking us from all ends. Yeah, to try to stop our connection to God, or to just have a conscience. They want us to be autonomous. If you don't want to go the God way, just that we're going to be automatons. Marty Lauderdale. Actually, I've even received some things from you, Marty, and I really appreciate you. She says, it's a lady, at least the picture. Great live today. It worked very well. How you use tweets, etc., to bring in additional info. Well, I have a lot of respect for the people that that I've been able to vet, for lack of a better term, and maybe not fully, but yeah, it's good to bring in their especially when you know that they're likely professionals that know what they're talking about. And you saw that in the person I was reading there, that they were looking at both possibilities. That yeah, there is a problem with asymptomatic transmission, but there's no reason to institute draconian measures, is my take, to do that. And you should be treating it earlier with things that you know work. The whole thing is to shut down reasonable action and liberties in favor of draconian, tyrannical measures. We know that's where they're going, and we have to resist it. We have to. We absolutely have to resist it. Yes, Judith Mikovets. Thank you for bringing that up, Robin Sullivan. Listen to her, Judith Mikovets, former NIH researcher, clearing interview of Fauci on True Pundit, talking about Dr. Fauci's underhanded and illegal activity, that then they delivered a great deal of horrible retribution upon her for trying to pull that out. Fauci should be in prison right now. He should be arrested. Bricks, maybe not, but certainly culpable to a lot of extent, and Gates, no doubt. But where are they? Soros runs free. They've got Assange in prison. What about what Soros has done? Why hasn't the Delta Force or the FBI gone after him? You see, Trump's protecting his inner circle, which includes Obama, Hillary, Kissinger, Soros, Rothschilds, etc. Rothschilds outside the U.S. jurisdiction, but you get my point. That's the only reasonable answer. And then people like Assange are in prison. Flynn is still fighting for his life. Stone is about ready to go into prison. And what does Trump say? Well, I'm just going to let it play out to see how it goes. I think the system will work. No, it's not. That's a sign of a demon. That's what they do. They pretend to be your friend, and then when they get you, they turn their back on you. He's a demon. He is. I wouldn't be doubt. He is so smart the way he's done this, whether in conjunction with these other people in the plan or whatever. He's been very smart in how he's done this. He is a grand deceiver, and that's why I stand against him now. And I know my Republican insiders that I know now are pulling their hair out. But I've seen one of them finally. He won't attack Trump directly, but he's starting to say this is crazy. The economy's falling apart. We're in nuclear destruction of the economy. We're going to see millions of deaths as a result of this. The few deaths you might have from coronavirus are going to mean nothing compared to what they're going to do with starving people out, taking away their means of livelihood. Yes, the system needs to be vamped over, and sometimes you have to destroy the old to bring in the new, but the new that they want to bring in is more slavery and dictations and tyranny. And that's why you know that it's not what they pretend it is. They're trying to pretend to be fulfilling that part in Revelations where it says, "And Babylon the Great has fallen. Woe, Babylon the Great has fallen. The merchants of the earth." They're using that as a playbook, but what they're going to replace it with is an evil system. It's their first shot to play God, and unfortunately, we're the pawns in the whole game. I'm not going to get into a lot of this religious discussion that's going on because that's just not where we need to be today. And I've engaged in a little of it, but I don't want to get off course here. I want to point out that we've been deceived. That's the important thing to understand. No, he's not bringing his friends close and his enemies closer to expose them. No, he's giving them cover to do what they're doing. Because we are so much against Hillary Rodham Clinton and that whole thing that they've set up there that we just can't imagine that he is actually involved in bringing the same thing down upon our heads, because he's pretending to stand for what's right, and he's not. It's all been a deception, and I regret from the bottom of my heart, from the depths of my soul, that because I didn't feel right with the LGBTQ flag thing, and then right up front with the Clinton when he said he wasn't going to prosecute them. They're good people. He didn't have to say good people. He could have said, I don't know, we're going to see. No, he was there right from the beginning, and I had those. It's kind of like meeting somebody you might want to have a relationship with, and these little red flags are going off, but because you want it so bad, you just ignore them, and then it turns out that you were right. Well, that's what happened here. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, Okiag, that this is all to take down America. That's just what I've been saying the whole time. We're going to be balkanized, just like I said. There'll be pockets left when this thing falls apart. But the problem is that at that point they'll be having all sorts of nations overrunning us here, all sorts of them, and it's going to be a mess. Our own military has failed to protect the United States. It's been used to empire build elsewhere, to take down other countries for the banking systems. You could see that because they're not on our border. The Mexican army is. Ugh. Who will, at the proper time, if this thing goes down bad, come in force, along with the cartels that actually control them. Yeah, thank you, Marty. Yeah, Jeremy comes on quite a bit, actually. He does. But I don't look at the comments, so I don't know, on my videos. Chat's about the only thing I look at. I only see, as I've said, the comments occasionally. Oh, yeah, Eddie Collins, you're saying pretty soon they will pay us to get gas. Oh, don't kid yourself. No. Yeah. This has to do with the destruction of the petrodollar to force you into the digital currency. They'll never pay you to do anything. This $1,200, if you even get it. Does anybody out there have that yet? I mean, I've heard people say they got it, but I don't know anybody personally that's got that 12. And I'm not looking for it. I just assume they keep it. I consider it blood money. I consider it a bribe. No, I haven't seen it. Anybody else have it yet here? Anybody received their $1,200 blood money yet? And okay. Stephanie Bolt. Okay, asked Roy, can you explain what balkanization is? No, it's not an elementary question. It refers to what happened to Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was one country under a dictator by the name of Tito, and Tito died, and he ruled with an iron hand like Saddam Hussein did in Iraq. And when we invaded Iraq, I saw what happened to Yugoslavia, and I'll explain that balkanization in a minute. When we invaded Iraq, I said, bad idea. You take Saddam Hussein out, we'll have to replace that. Saddam Hussein knows how to deal with those people. They're not ready for any kind of thing that we do here in the West. I hate the term democracy, but they're not ready for that. There are too many factions over there, and they need to be under control. Unfortunately, that's just the case. We just need to be our light to the world here and forget about that. Well, of course, when we invaded Iraq, now look at it. Well, the same thing happened in Yugoslavia. Tito was the dictator, ruled with an iron hand over the Bosniaks, the Serbs, and the Croats. If you don't know about that, they're basically Christians, Muslims, and Catholics. Okay, that's Protestants, Muslims, and Catholics. That's basically how it was broken down there. But Tito kept an iron hand. He wouldn't put up with any nonsense. Well, as soon as he died, what occurred is those factions started fighting amongst each other, and a big fight ensued. Well, Clinton saw that, and the NATO saw that, the United Nations saw that, and they saw a chance to get in there and steal resources and to play the bandit under the pretense of peacekeeping. So Clinton bombed the heck out of them, of the Serbs. Even though, like I said, the Croats, the Bosniaks, and the Serbs, Croats, and Bosniaks were fighting each other. Neighbor turned against neighbor. People that they had known their whole lives, they started killing each other. Oh, it was a mess. But then we got involved and we bombed the hell out of the place, killing a lot of innocent people, refugees just trying to leave. We would bomb refugee caravans that were trying to leave. We bombed them. Oh, it was a mistake. We didn't mean to do that. Yeah, right. So what occurred is what you see today. Yugoslavia was broken apart. You have Croatia, you have Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have what's called the former Yugoslavia, you have Serbia, you have Montenegro, you have Kosovo. So in other words, it broke it up. That's what balkanization means. You break it up. Sometimes, most of the time, along ethnic, religious, racial divisions, but not necessarily. And that's the easiest way. So in other words, it's the breakup of the country into smaller groups. The FEMA map, if you look at a FEMA map, that's an example of balkanization. And they're going to implement that at some point in time. I hope that explained it to some degree. Yeah, Ida Shoemaker. Another thing Trump did, signed the USMCA, which basically sold us down the river too. Yeah, our sovereignty was turned over there. See, everything is double speak with Trump. Everything. Can he know everything? Well, he asked for the job. And that's why I say it's more important that he abide by principle. And he doesn't. He has no principle. He's a businessman. However he's going to operate, it's going to be about him coming out on top. Even if it looks like he isn't. He'll sacrifice himself. Well, I don't know what they promised him after this. I have no idea what it is. Or if he was just in that group to begin with. But he's been a real smooth actor. Very, very much so. Yeah, FEMA's already chopped up the United States, Gary Hines. That's correct. By the way, one of the things that happens on this that I've noticed people are saying, oh, we had 666 viewers there. That's never right. The count here for the viewers is never, ever right. I've checked on that with my stats just out of curiosity. Everything on this is a lie. Everything, you know. And the way they've changed this new studio, it's even more able for them to manipulate things. You've probably heard people whose live streams are just cut off halfway through. That's happened to me too when I've tried to use this. And there have been some other things. Okay. Yeah, and people are talking about the HCQ and the zinc and all that. Look, and I just want you to understand, it's not even that that's the issue, actually. The point is that they're approaching this entire thing as if government repression is the only way that they can defeat it. Unlike they did with SARS, MERS, H1N1, or HIV. The Spanish flu, for that matter, back in 1917. I talked to this healthcare professional the other day, and he said all this is crazy what they're doing. He says, in fact, the only time I could see that this would be required to do what they're doing now is if there was an Ebola outbreak. Now that would be something to deal with, but not this. This is all a ploy, and Trump is playing along with it. Oh, he got stuck because, he said he was told by this group, Fauci and Bricks, that, it was just going to be the sniffles. And then, he was betrayed by them because now they turned around and they're doing all these other things. Poor little old Trump, poor Trump. I'll tell you how you defeat that, ladies and gentlemen. You stand by principle. The Constitution is not subject to a virus. That's how you defeat. That's how you stand. And he's not willing to do that. And now he's turned into a Saul who will even turn on his son Jonathan at some point. Certainly on the people. If we're the David in that story, he's turned on us. He's trying to hunt us down now. Go read the story of Saul and how he turned on David, and how Jonathan tried to stand in the way but couldn't, because Saul was the king. His father was the king. Look at how Saul pursues David, and that's exactly what Trump is doing to us right now. Okay, wow, how long have we been going here? An hour and 41 minutes. Oh my gosh, I can't do this to you any longer today. Thank you all for coming. I hope, this person that told me, make a list and, go down this list, but I like to kind of keep it a little more free-flowing than that. We could have talked about a lot of other things that Trump has done that he shouldn't have done, and a lot of things he hasn't done that he should have, both ways. And I'm convinced now that this has all been a big theatrical drama because we're going down. All the nations of the earth have to fall. They do, in order for the true king to take over. But they're playing this for their own good. They're trying to imitate that and pretend to be what they're not. And the true, I'm convinced now, and I've heard other people, some people find problems with Christopher Green, and I understand that. People have problems with me. I understand that. But I think by and large, we're all coming to the conclusion based upon what Silicon Valley said several years ago that I pointed out, that they're going to worship the AI God, which is the creation of their own hands. Men are going to worship the creation of their own hands, just like they did before with wood and stone idols. They're now making this thing that they're going to worship. So we knew it was coming, and now we know that with the situation as it's developed, that the AI is the plug-in for whatever this thing is. The AI is it, but it's going to manifest in a person, an image, the image of the beast, right? The image. It's going to be a man that'll either be programmed with a chip in his brain to tie into the AI, or it will be some type of a interdimensional being. My guess is it's going to be a regular guy. As a matter of fact, I saw a thing the other day, and somebody had a picture of President Macron with the Pope, and they said, is this their man? Because they know what my point is. No, I don't think so. Macron is not popular enough. It's going to be somebody that has had a lot of exposure and is going to be, in my estimation, someone who's had a lot of exposure, is well thought of by and large by the people of the world. I mean, there are a couple of possibilities there. I don't know who it is. I brought up the thing with Barack Obama the other day, that in the Hebrew there's a slight difference. It can mean blessed depending upon the vowels involved, or it could also mean lightning. And of course, lightning being what Jesus saw fall from heaven, right? When Satan fell from heaven as lightning. And when I said that, I guess I went kind of ghostly on there, but that happens on YouTube quite frequently. Not just when you say that. I wasn't summoning a demon. That's not the name of a demon, by the way. It's just lightning. It's what it means. So could it be Obama returning? Having been thrown out of office and then come back? I'm not sure he fits the other categories of the Antichrist. I do know that according to Daniel, and I've talked about this before, the Antichrist doesn't really like women, okay? Because he's a Baphomet. He wants the sexless. He's sexless, right? Jesus isn't sexless, and God isn't. Neither are we, and we're in God's image. And I know people don't want to hear that, but if you say the other, then you're saying that you're a created automaton. Lucifer is what you're saying. So Obama, we're pretty sure, isn't heterosexual, right? We're pretty sure that Michelle Obama, according to Joan Rivers, is actually a guy, right? The kids were loaned to them. They're not theirs. Whatever. Obama does fill some of the categories. Will not enjoy the company of women. Will be brought back from some type of a defeat. Will cause the whole earth to bow before the beast. A lot of things that Obama matches up with, but I don't see it being him, and I could be wrong. I mean, Trump almost fills in some of those categories as well. There will be those who say, I am Christ, but they do it to deceive you. I mean, and I've called Trump out on that because I don't believe he believes a word of that. Is that unjust of me to accuse him of that? Well, just look at his fruits, ladies and gentlemen. A follower of Christ doesn't act tyrannically and seize other people's rights and keep them from living their lives. Trump says he wants you to live abundantly, but what has he produced? I mean, really, what has he done? Stock market. He's closed almost. I mean, that might be doing well still. I mean, it's fallen a lot, but that was his big thing. But that was deliberate. Like I said, he was blowing up the balloon until it busts. The real damage has been done to the smaller businesses and mom and pop stores and those things. The real backbone of the country. They're gone. And it's going to get worse. Okay. I'm just certain that individual is here now and may have actually arrived at JFK Airport with an entourage of 5 Airbuses last week, or last few days. And is in New York now. And there's some things about the New Jerusalem and some other things, but I don't want to get into that. Thanks, everybody, for coming. No, it's not JFK Jr. No, it's not JFK. No, he wouldn't fit the bill. He liked women, remember? No, he doesn't fit the bill. No. JFK Jr. is not it. And since Trump likes women, it's probably not him either. He's just a tool. But we'll see. Hopefully, if this guy shows his face in the next little while, we can talk about it before the AI shuts us down. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming again. They're attacking the good people of this country. They let the criminals out, and they're attacking the good people in this country and putting them in jail, fining them exorbitantly, interfering with their liberties. Even if occasionally, we don't get the entire story like the lady there in Idaho, because there are probably some other mitigating circumstances, but the fact is that kind of stuff is, in fact, going on. So we are the criminals now, and rapists, pedophiles, coup plotters, traitors, seditionists, those involved in RICO, on and on, they're allowed to continue on with their lives. I submit to you, like Hillary Clinton, like Brennan, like Clapper. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Well, why wasn't it just coming for these people who have been abused. Now, I know Barr says that he is looking at coming down on governors who have been over the top on the authoritarianism, but it's always, he's looking at it. It's coming. It's not. There's no reason that these things couldn't have already been taken care of. And remember, Trump gave them the cover to go down this road. For the red flag laws, right? He gave them cover for that, for people like Northam to start acting. And I could go on and on. I've been going on too long now. So, thanks for coming. We'll talk to you again probably in a few days. Hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to control this new system here that they've got, because it is a pain in the neck to work with. And like I say, they change it so that, you do start running into problems. Thank everybody for coming today, and remember to keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Watch for the appearance of this Antichrist. I think it's right quick. I don't, Jesus said, no man knoweth the day or the hour but my Father in heaven, but I will come as a thief in the night, right? It'll be a surprise. He'll come at a time when you think not. Well, don't forget that the devil is an imitator of God. He knows that same stuff. He knows it. So he's going to put himself in that drama, in that theatric, in that play. And he's going to appear the same kind of situation. It'll happen when at a time you think not, as a thief in the night. That's how this guy's going to show up. Not that he isn't known by the Pope, by the royalty, by President Trump himself, by the United Nations leaders. Known there, no doubt. But to the general people, it'll be a sudden appearance. And it'll probably be somebody we already know in some way. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay, till next time, everybody. God bless you and yours. We'll see you later.